Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining this morning or this afternoon, wherever you guys are, to how to strengthen your fundraising during tough times with an AI assistant. So I have a few speakers today, and I'll hand it off in just a moment to one of them, to Matt Wasserman, Principal and Founder of MPW Strategies. My name is Amelia Farber. I'm the Director of Global Partnerships at Conversica. So I'll be talking a bit more about the technology side, about what an AI assistant is. And Matt and John are both our experts in the field in fundraising at nonprofits and higher ed alumni donation relationships. So we have some really interesting stuff for you today. I know it's been a heck of a month, last 5-6 weeks for probably all of us on this call right now. So I'm excited to present some thoughts and ideas around how to approach fundraising and donor relationships during the COVID-19 era and then post-COVID-19 era and the recovery period. So a brief agenda here. So I'll hand it off to Matt in a second to kind of set the stage, talking a bit about change as a constant. We all has hit home this year especially. We'll go over kind of an overview of the fundraising AI assistant and what that actually is, what kind of technology it is, and how it could benefit your organization. We'll have a few outreach use cases. We'll actually go through some examples of what it actually would look like to use these types of conversations with an AI assistant within the fundraising world, and then talk through ideas for plan for recovery and what you guys are thinking, what we've been thinking about, and then kind of a call to action at the end here for fundraising pioneers, and we'll talk a bit more about that at the end. We will have time for Q&A at the end, about 10-15 minutes. So if you do have questions, put them into the chat. There should be a Q&A section, and we'll touch base on those at the very end. So I'll hand it now to Matt Wasserman to kick it off with kind of setting the stage in fundraising.
Great. Excuse me. Thanks so much, Amelia. Again, Matt Wasserman with MPW Strategies, and I'm really excited to be here today and to talk about what we see as the power of Conversica for fundraising in the nonprofit and higher ed space. We are proud to partner with Conversica. We really see it as a unique and powerful tool that can really help fundraisers over almost every area of fundraising that you engage through annually or throughout the years. And we'll be going through a lot of that today. So to get started, we know that, we know that, the world's changing rapidly, of course, but it was changing before COVID-19 pandemic broke out, and now that change is happening at, an accelerated rate, but also a very uncertain rate. And I think the future is definitely uncertain as we look at things. And how so this is really about one, minimizing that uncertainty and thinking about how to stabilize fundraising and how to stabilize your organization or institution, and then also just thinking about the current environment or even the environment of communication. And really things have changed a lot over probably the last 10-15 years, and your stakeholders, your donors, your volunteers, your alumni, your members, they're expecting not just personalization but customization, and that's because of what they're how they're buying, how they're communicating, how they're connecting. And communication's just, it's changed so much, and how companies sell to these people. And certainly they're all, constantly communicating to companies. But I think as nonprofits and institutions, we also have to think about, how we communicate with them and move away from just, the kind of one-way communication to, something very interactive and engaging. And automation is all around us in our lives, I think, as most of you know, whether that's the music app you have on your phone or the technology such as, Alexa at your home and your car even, and the automation that exists in your car, and healthcare, and the AI that's being utilized to solve some of the greatest problems that we face today. And also in your organization that you probably, or most likely, I bet a lot of the folks on today's webinar are using some type of data analytics, some type of donor research or stakeholder research to identify and even predict future donations, future actions, what have you. This is all using this big data, this predictive analytics, and it's really becoming a big part of fundraising within organizations. And at the end of the day, though, it is still about that personal connection and building relationships with donors. That will always exist. It's a little harder now. It's a little more difficult, and we also have to kind of accelerate what we're doing in that vein, just to keep connected with people. So what does this mean for you, your institution, your school? And you might have a lot of these tools at your fingertips right now, for analytics and predictive analytics. You're going through, or at least you're doing some type level of donor screen. And that's really important. And, it's all the right things to do. And you're probably getting as close as you can to understanding donors and understanding their connection to your organization or institution and why they want to be involved. But there kind of is that missing piece. And that missing piece is really, that final qualification that as a fundraiser, you're going to do over the phone. You need to make that personal connection. And if you have a lot of analytics at hand, you probably have a lot of donors to connect with and to make connections with this. And how can you do this at scale? Whether it's annual giving, you still want to build those personal connections through annual giving or pipeline building. And that's tough. The environment's very noisy. It's very noisy now and uncertain. And then even in major planned gifts, we're doing I think a lot of organizations are doing the check-ins now and checking in on their closest donors, the people that are really mean a lot, and seeing how they're doing and what's happening in their lives, and even making some asks at some extent. But again, there's this rapid change. Wealth and interests are probably changing currently and will over the next 6 months or even a year. And so the analytics, while still very valuable, are not getting the whole picture. So the question is really, how can you then really qualify or understand donors? And so we're going to go a lot more into that. And then we look at the kind of this near and long-term picture. Long-term picture, of course, is very uncertain, and we don't have a crystal ball to really predict what the world will look like in 6 months. But there are some things that you can do to at least create some level of stability and maybe even certainty. I think a lot of organizations right now are checking with donors. You may be even switching to virtual events from a physical event to a virtual event, or you're running specific COVID-19 crisis campaigns on how your organization, your institution is helping people right now, and why and the need for funding to really impact people's lives at the moment. It is a great time, though, to plan and innovate. And we're talking to a lot of organizations right now about, let's take a step back. Let's think about, the next few weeks, the next 6 months, the next year, and just think about, what tools would really be helpful in connecting and better connecting with donors. There's a lot of specialized campaigns taking place, and I think that will be the case for the next year, and probably more virtual type events, but campaigns really around immediate needs and impacting people's lives. And if you're like a lot of the organizations and institutions we're talking to, there's some changes ahead, and a lot of companies as well. You're probably cutting budgets and asking to do more with less. I think in this world we're always being asked to do more with less, but it's even more so now. And I really, I think that will continue for quite a while. And there's probably some, more budget cuts and things like that, or personnel reductions in the future that could be happening. So the question is, really, how do you handle all this? How do you connect with it? Do you have the tools in place to continue this donor connection while you have to, probably the need to raise funds is greater than ever?
Awesome. And I'll jump in right here. So that's perfect
Great,
setup. So the tool we're actually talking about today is one of the many tools that Matt had mentioned. These are AI assistants. So it's a tool driven by AI. Essentially, it sits alongside your human team, so alongside your development team, your fundraising team, especially now when they're, excuse me, they're probably stretched a bit thin, even more than normal, and struggling to keep in contact with your prospective donors, your current donors, making sure that that communication is really high quality and consistent. And that's a real struggle for a lot of organizations. And so AI assistants are basically a virtual assistant that you can hire onto your team. They're able to do a lot of the pieces of the work that the human teams just don't have time to do, especially right now, and especially into the recovery period and in normal times. Your AI assistants are really geared towards scalability, so being able to reach out to hundreds, thousands of prospective donors, current donors at a time with different types of conversations via email or via text. The key to them is that they're really reliable and consistent. It is technology, it's not a human being, so that consistency is very possible, and that predictability and persistence. And I think those three things right now, especially during COVID, are keys to success for any organization. For any donor out there, I think they're looking around and kind of hoping that the organizations they support are there, are reliable, are interested in keeping in touch with them. So that goes both ways. The AI assistants help up that communication in both directions. It also helps augment your human team. So obviously your human team that's still on board, that's still working kind of seriously right now to make sure that the direction of the organization and the type of communication you want to put out there is relevant to what's going on right now. You might be, as Matt mentioned, pivoting a bit towards virtual events or virtual offerings. We work a lot with YMCAs, and they might be doing a bit more, got pulled ahead there a little bit. They might be doing a bit more of virtual fitness classes. Any of those non-physical offerings you have now, even if your physical doors are closed, if you're an organization that brings people in its doors frequently, you might have different modified options that you want to communicate to your base, your donor base. So it's really important to think of those AI assistants as not replacing your team at all, but making sure that they have an extra pair of virtual hands to do all of that work. So to kind of give you an idea of what that looks like, and I'll show you some examples in a few moments, but essentially these are the components of what the AI assistant does. So the AI assistant initially just wants to engage with whoever it's messaging, whoever it's emailing. So it might be a group of donors that have recently canceled their membership or something. You want to convert that membership into a donation, or reach out to your major donors to make sure that they feel like there's lots of communication going on. They're still in the loop in terms of the modifications to your services you have going on. So really geared towards engaging with that audience on a personalized level. So this isn't a mass email blast, a copy and paste email that Jordan or whoever your AI assistant will be sending out. It's actually personally crafted emails. And that's one of the things about the AI that's really special, is that the AI is able to, using that AI capability, able to actually generate language in text and in email, so all written language that's very personalized. So nothing looks the same. So each donor will receive a personalized email, follow-up emails, until the AI assistant is able to engage with that donor, able to actually empathize, so understand the messages that the donor sends back to the AI assistant. It has a high level of intelligence for natural language understanding, and then actually respond in kind, to respond naturally to the actual conversation. So it's a two-way conversation that this AI assistant is able to have with whoever you're messaging, whether it's the prospective donor base or your current donor base. And of course, the keys of that AI assistant is being really prompt, being very personalized, but also being very persistent. Some people might be totally kind of out in the wind right now. We want to make sure we're emailing multiple times to get in touch with them and make sure that connection is made. But also that persistence is not too pushy. It's always very polite, very careful, very along with the mission of your organization. And a few things I know, especially right now, we're heading into possibly extensions of shelters in place. It's very uncertain, as Matt mentioned earlier. Timing is really key. And so a lot of tools, especially ones that involve AI, take a lot of time and it's a lot of effort to set up. Because this is all kind of natural language generation that's ingrained intelligence, essentially, it's a very fast onboarding. So if your organization is looking to make some big communication efforts, even in the next 2 weeks, you could be up and running. Your AI assistant could be actually messaging and having two-way conversations with donors, with prospective donors within a couple of weeks, which is awesome. And so making it really quick to actually getting that communication out, making those connections is really, really important. And of course, the scale is always there, so making sure the AI assistant is able to scale your efforts, whether it's gaining new annual donors this year or increasing those major donor gifts this year, especially to keep your organization running smoothly throughout the uncertainty this year. That scale is very, very important. And just moving donor stages, so making sure that the communication is prompting some sort of action, either getting meetings set with your executive director for those major donors or inviting them to those new virtual events, something to get those donors moved through any sort of stage that they're in right now. And actually an example of this, and I know this is a simplified one, we'll show you some actual screenshots of what the messages look like in a moment with Matt talking through those use cases, but this is in general what the AI assistant does. So Ashley, in this case, in the blue, is actually an example of an AI assistant. So your organization actually gets to name the AI assistant, whatever name you choose, and she or he or it is going to reach out persistently at first. So she's going to reach out very simply with this, say, "Hi, Bill, I see you joined our organization mailing list. Would you like to learn about our giving program?" A really simple message. So this is not pushing content. It's not scrabbling to get information from them. It's just trying to start a conversation. So it's very simple, very polite. And Ashley may send 4 or 5 emails until Bill responds. So she might email a few days later and say, "Hi, just checking back in. Would you like to learn more? I'd love to get you connected with somebody." So very, very polite, but very persistent to make sure that communication gets through. Once Bill responds, if he responds positively, in this case, he totally does, and he has some questions, he would like to talk with somebody about the organization, she's actually going to respond to that after she is able to read that and essentially glean the information from that message, say, okay, this is positive, he's interested. She's going to respond and say, "Colby, who's on the development team, is working on this, would like to call you." And it's going to verify contact information. So another good thing about this is, especially in these tough times, making sure you have the correct contact information for your entire donor base and prospective donor list is really, really important. So she's actually going to verify contact information, and if it's incorrect, in which case it is, so it says, "No, I'm out of town this week," or maybe I'm working from home, so have them call me at my cell or my home number. So you're getting more information about your donors as you go and updating that information. And then actually, Ashley, the AI assistant, is going to hand off this lead to a development manager internally. She's going to email Colby on the development team and say, "Hey, Colby, this prospective donor is super interested. They would like to talk with you. Here's their phone number." So basically teeing up a quick call to maybe get this person into the giving program. And then following up one last time to make sure that nothing falls through the cracks. So Bill's interested. We want him to connect with the development officer. And she's going to make sure that Colby actually got in touch with him. You know, right now everyone's kind of all over the place, keeping track of things, keeping track of the days even is a little bit tricky. So she's actually going to act as kind of a safety net to make sure that Colby on the development team did make the connection. If not, she's going to flag that. In this case, there was a positive response. He said, "Yes, we're set for a meeting next week." If Bill had responded and say, "No, I never got a call, I'm still waiting to hear back," Ashley would actually flag this internally and send Colby a note and say, "Hey, you missed this one, make sure you give him a call." So it's really making sure that everything is kept in place in the background. Things are still moving while your team is handling modifications to service and different directions of plans for this year and all the other things that they have to be doing. And then, of course, there's always different applications. So the AI assistant, in this case, was probably an annual donor. There's also application for reaching out to those major donors or gaining new major donors or reaching out for specific campaigns. And Matt mentioned there's probably a lot of very tailored campaigns going on right now around COVID, around modified services. Those are great ways to engage your audience using the AI assistant. So making sure that they know that even though something might be closed or things might be changed, we still have virtual donor events. We're doing the annual gala online, or we're doing it spread out. Still sponsorships available. Or just reaching out to verify donor information, collect surveys, just to keep in touch with that donor base is really, really important. And I'll hand it back to Matt right now to actually talk through some of these screenshots of actual examples of what these conversations could look like within your organization.
Great, thanks so much, Amelia. And yeah, that slide that Amelia just showed, most bases of fundraising can be covered by the AI assistant, whether it's annual giving, it's major gifts, or specific or specialized campaigns that are taking place right now. And not just now, but in the future. I mean, you're always going to have events. You're always going to want to verify information. You're always want to collect surveys. So these things are very relevant now, and then I think, very relevant ongoing. So I'll jump ahead here. So what do these communications look like? One thing that's very relevant that Amelia stated, this is not an email blast. This is one-on-one communication. So it says hi, but hi can be personalized name, and they're hitting the inbox. And then again, it's a conversation that's taking place instead of just like a one-way directional email blast or something like that. So these are just kind of the tee-up conversations to begin with. And again, as Amelia demonstrated from the other slide, there's a conversation that will follow this that can be a back and forth, and then hand it off to a person, to a human being at the end of the chain, that can take the meeting or what have you. This one is relevant for, right now, and it's really about, an organization here is doing a discussion with the executive director, and this could be, related to the COVID crisis and how your organization, your institution is responding and helping the people that you serve, or just how you're keeping business going at this time. And while this particular email is geared towards a discussion, which would probably be some type of call or something like that, it could also be a personal meeting. So for the sense of major gifts, or for the example of major gifts, this could really be related to either asking a major gift donor or prospective major gift donor to meet or talk to, an executive director, a dean, a chancellor, what have you, or even a major gift officer. So for the major gift officers on the call, the AI assistant really be helpful for setting up meetings, and I think that's really important to know. And where it says would you like to have a link to sign up? That could be a calendar, a tool for calendar living, things like Calendly, I think it's called, or something like that, where you can actually schedule that meeting on your calendar, or it could just go to you as the major gift officer or the executive director, or what have you. But again, a way to really tee up meetings and see who's interested in meetings and who wants to meet. And that's kind of that, that qualification beyond the data analytics, as I discussed earlier. These are two cases right here. And it's about like an announcement outreach. And the other one's really, which I think is more of a cultivation. But this first one right here could really be about, this could be annual giving, it could be leadership giving, but it's a direct appeal. Again, not an email blast. It's personal and allows for that follow-up and that response. And here again, this is COVID crisis specific, but again, it could be for a crowdfunding campaign later on, or an event, almost anything. This is more of a cultivation connection. And, we're interested in learning more, building a relationship, engaging someone further into the organization. Again, there can be either information sent or human handoffs for this second case. this third case, really relevant today, where we're either canceling events or rescheduling events or moving personal events to virtual or doing some type of hybrid event. And so, this is the first one's, is a conference follow-up, but it's driving some action. And you want to learn, would you like to learn more? And again, two-way conversation can result from this initial outreach. The second one is really, again, driving action and to determine interest. And this could be for either just attending, or it could be all about just getting information. That could be attending, sponsorship, table buying, captain, committee member for the event, what have you. If you have a large committee or large table purchasing, something like that. I do want to reference Jeremy Jones here, this customer relations assistant. So those titles are all highly customizable. As Amelia said, the name is highly customizable. So that could be donor relations assistant, and then as part of your organization. And again, you say Conversica, but this is your organization being plugged in here, of course. Like all these emails, or our annual fundraiser, or whatever the event could be, the date. All of this is highly customizable, and as the previous emails also suggest. So all these things are, you're customizing the event, your organization, and the person you're connecting with. This case is really all about retention, so particular to annual giving or annual fund. And if you have people that are either on a monthly giving plan or an annual giving plan, this is the reminder to renew. This could also be used for clubs and societies as well, but just an option to renew. Again, it's a conversation. Can we send you more information about your options? Would you like to learn more? And that back and forth conversation that can eventually be handed over to the fundraiser. But again, just kind of teeing up the conversation. Really good in scale, especially if you have large memberships, large societies, a lot of people in your annual giving plan, and it's just difficult to reach out to all of them in a really personable, persistent way. And as Amelia said again, I just want to key in on that personal persistence. That the assistant doesn't sleep, and you can have as many messages following up on your a timetable that works for your organization until you get that response. And here's member to donation. So for those organizations on the line that have memberships, this is that conversion. And so we're seeing this a lot right now. This is YMCA specific. This is actually taking place. This is a real use case. And the assistant is reaching out and, would you like to convert your membership to a donation? And that's, of course, happening at a lot of cultural institutions as well. But, again, that's another use case for the assistant, what they can do and kind of the power of the assistant. And again, it's personable, and don't forget the persistence, that there can be follow-up to this. If there's no response, there can be other follow-up messages that you can tailor, and you can also tailor the timing of that as well. So I'm going to move over to back to Amelia to talk about kind of just the entire donor, how all the skills really fit into the donor life cycle.
Absolutely awesome. I actually had a couple of notes. I'll pop back one slide here real fast. And a couple of notes about these. So this is kind of the back end that you're seeing. This is actually what you would, as the administrator of the AI assistant, it's kind of the AI assistant manager per se, you would go in and help set up these campaigns or these conversations. And so everything you're seeing that's highlighted are actually things that you can tailor. So we've tailored this campaign for the New York YMCA, specifically typing in these variables, so the purple, the red, the green, and the yellow. So anything you want to put in there that might be different. So maybe we're changing our membership options just in general, or maybe we're transitioning membership to a donation for this specific cause. So you can always change these variables. You're basically handing the AI assistant information that, as an AI tool, it doesn't have, not a human being. So you as the human being give it a little bit of information. With that information, the AI is able to craft messages. So if you're emailing this out to all of your members, if you have hundreds or thousands of members of your organization, every single member is going to receive a different looking email. So it's not going to be a copy and paste of this exact text. Because it's an AI, that's one of the neat things about it. It's actually, if you see this refresh button up in the corner, this is just a screenshot, but if you were actually in the tool and clicked this refresh button, it would show you examples of the different types of messages that the AI would generate for you. It'll move around the language, use different terminology, always referencing this basic information that you gave to it, but in a different format. So even if two members of the same household are members of your organization, they would each receive a personalized email, which is pretty neat. And so it feels very personal, which I think especially now, since we're all stuck at home and feel pretty isolated, that personalization, even just an email outreach, makes quite a bit of difference to even the person who just receiving it. And I'll pop back over here again to talk about additional skills and use cases for this fundraising AI assistant for kind of that entire donor life cycle. So of course, we've kind of touched on prospective donors, getting them in the door, kind of helping them join that giving program. Once they're donors, reaching out to those current donors, whether those are annual donors or major donors, but also using it in different ways. So even maybe upgrading existing donors through reaching out, even at the end of an annual donor term, and saying, we'd love for you to support their mission more. We know you've participated in these events this year, or downloaded our brochures about these different things we're doing this year. Would you be interested in upgrading your membership if you're upgrading your donation? And those pre and post events, while maybe less relevant now, might still be relevant if you're pivoting and just doing virtual events. You can still use those for webinars or for kind of those virtual galas or virtual meetings with the executive director or whatever you have going on. Or just activate unresponsive donors. Maybe they haven't participated in the offerings your organization has lately. You want to make sure that they're still feeling involved in the community and actively a member or actively a donor, or regaining those lapsed donors. So lots of different ways and types of conversations that the AI assistant can implement. And you simply have to decide which ones are most relevant for your organization, and then essentially tell the AI assistant what type of conversation to have and who to have it with, kind of assign it a list of donors or prospects, and then the AI assistant can go and do all of its work, like the conversations we showed you earlier. And there's lots of different specific locations on that donor life cycle to use your AI assistant, to employ that AI assistant. So right now, it's really exciting. This is our first webinar for the Fundraising AI Assistant, which is awesome with MPW Strategies. This has been a long time coming. We've been trying to get this developed and make sure we have the right types of conversations that really hit the right note for nonprofits or for higher ed, any sort of society or organization that would be using this assistant. And in the last couple months, it's been the big impetus to kind of get this finalized because of what is going on in the world. We realized this was kind of the perfect time to figure out, okay, these are the types of conversations that might be the best use cases right now. And let's make sure that this is available in case organizations are struggling and want to use this. So the four kind of major skills that we've identified and gotten ready to use, so out of the box, ready to use right now, are these four. So the examples that Matt went through, all of those conversations are ready to use right now and are starting to be used by a few organizations and picking up pretty quickly. And we're happy to talk through more different variations of those conversations. So we'll talk at the very end today about who to reach out to, who to contact if you are interested, and just exploring this a little bit more. There will eventually be a lot more skills. So other AI assistants we have that are focused on other verticals, maybe more corporate world, there's lots of available skills. The fundraising assistant will pack in more skills as we go. Part of that is getting feedback from you guys. And John and Matt have been fantastic. They're in this world. They're helping and talking with you guys very frequently, but we'd love to hear directly from you guys. We'll send out, and this is a weird link to copy right now, but we'll send out a link after this webinar. It's just a quick survey asking kind of which use cases you think would be relevant to your organization, just to get an idea of what makes the most sense. And also opening the door, there's a free-form text entry there if you have ideas for other use cases, other types of conversations you normally have with your donors that you think could be useful for an AI assistant. You can enter those there. So look out for that. We'll be sending out the recording of this webinar with that link afterwards. And then one fun piece, it's a serious time, but this is a fun piece that I like to talk through, is really making this personalized. I know we're all kind of pushed into this virtual world more than ever right now, if we're all being at home and doing all these Zoom calls and Google Hangout calls and webinars and everything. And so kind of making sure those are all personalized is great. You can also do that with your AI assistant. So hiring this tool onto your team, essentially, you get to choose a name, you choose the skills that they're going to be good at. They're actually in their repertoire. You pick someone on your development team who can actually be the manager of the AI, direct the conversations, choose a title, so development assistant, whatever title you think is appropriate. Choose an email address that reflects your organization, so it looks like it's an actual member, an employee of your organization. And then set the primary language. So we didn't get to talk about this much, but we do have other languages than English that it's actually fluent in, so able to communicate, especially for Spanish for some of you guys, that might be a big one. That can also be a secondary language or a primary language of the AI assistant. And then work hours are really key, so especially for organizations that have members that might be emailing on the weekend or after hours, you can make sure the AI assistant is available to field those emails and have those conversations at any time of day or week. And another fun note is just to choose a birthday, which is a silly one, but it's fun to make it a bit more personalized. And then a quick note just to give you an idea of who is using this, and this of course is from various different industries, so a lot of them are outside this nonprofit or fundraising world, but some really key ones are going to be those Los Angeles Film School, Villanova, those higher ed spaces who might be using it for alumni relations, reaching out, especially now, to keep in touch, and lots of YMCAs, so YMCA of the Fox Cities, Gateway Region, Central Maryland, a bunch of others have been using this a lot and find it really, really key for keeping in touch with their member base, even especially those transitioning memberships to donations has been really, really key for them. And I'll hand it over to Matt to kind of wrap everything up. We will have some time for questions at the very end, so hang out if you do have questions or shoot us all a note, but I will hand it over to Matt right now.
Thanks, Amelia. So, in wrapping it up, we're really, what's your plan for recovery and re-engagement? We've all been through quite a bit in the last month and a half, and it's what's next, and really thinking about kind of that recovery and getting back into the swing of things and further engaging, connecting with your donor base. And I'm sure we're all going to see some organizational shifts, some pivots to really respond to the current environment and what the next few weeks, let alone 6 months or year, will look like. And of course, that will involving planning and budgeting and innovating. And we really see that the AI assistant can really fulfill gaps that exist right now, that I'm sure existing in fundraising operations, and then also to really help with the future operations and really provide a great resource for connecting, with your stakeholders, with your donors, your alumni, your members, what have you, on a very, personal level, but that persistent level that can really scale and connect and help you build relationships, and as I mentioned before, further qualify donors, and also get meetings with those that you're having trouble getting meetings or connecting with. And this is our call out. So we're really looking. This is new for nonprofit fundraising. YMCA, of course, is utilizing it right now, and we are looking for organizations, institutions to try it, to pilot it, and be a pioneer, and really to look at how this can help us right now during this kind of time of crisis, and how things are really tough, and then also how we can move forward. So the deal right now is really about billing starts in 60 days to allow for a free charge setup, implementation, initial use of the solution. MPW Strategies, we can be there for you and help with implementation, and we will provide that service for free for our group of pioneers who want to work through this with in the space of nonprofit fundraising. And then we'll have some discounts as well. And Amelia, you might have some more to add to that.
Definitely. So that's something, this is new for us as well. We want to make sure this fits for all of your guys' organizations. So that's something we'll address on individual calls to make sure that we have this right, and you guys can provide some feedback for us as we go along. So really looking for those pioneers who find this really intriguing, think it would be a really great match for their organization, and can really see those use cases working quickly with their member base or their donor base. So talking with them to see, and obviously all of the people in the first few months here that we're working on this who are interested and want to start, you are definitely eligible for that first year discount. And we'll discuss that more one-on-one with you guys, but are super interested to get in touch with you guys and have those one-on-one meetings to see which use cases would make the most sense.
Absolutely, yeah, and it really, and you will have those conversations and really customize this for what you need, what your pain points are, what the AI assistant can solve for you at the current time. And should we turn it over to questions? And I know we've got a couple bubbling up here. And if anybody has any questions, just use that Q&A space. And I see Gordon Gordon's asking, is there an easy way for the donor to opt out and say, please stop emailing me? Well, it's really, they just have to write back to the AI assistant and say they're not interested. And that's it. They're off the list.
Yeah,
I mean, because it's really a personal conversation. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll jump
in.
And
so,
go
ahead, Amelia.
Super simple. Sorry, this is virtual events. So it's definitely easy for them to respond. So there's two different ways they could stop that communication. There's always going to be an unsubscribe link at the bottom of the AI assistant's messages. So if they do just want to click that, easy. They can also respond. So most of the time people just respond because they think they're emailing with one of your actual development officers or one of your human beings on the team. So they'll respond to, yeah, I'm so sorry, money's tight right now, not interested, but thank you. If they have any sort of negative response like that, the AI assistant is able to actually understand that, and will not respond. It'll actually stop messaging completely if there's any sort of negative response. It'll put a flag on the account for you. You can say, okay, good to know, and we'll pause our meeting at the time. And it looks like, we have a good one from Terry that just came in. Do conversations integrate to the CRM? Great question. I'm actually going to pop back to one slide to give you an example of this. If I can click it here. There we go. It totally does. So we do have out-of-the-box integrations with various different CRMs. So Sugar CRM, we have HubSpot, we have Salesforce, we have Microsoft Dynamics. We also have open APIs, so we can connect to different CRMs and build that connection if need be, which is the easiest way to use it. Because obviously you guys have either a donor management system or a CRM that has all of that information in one place where you can easily assign it to the AI assistant. So that's a great way to use it. You can also use the tool, without any integration. So it can be a total standalone. All you need to do is to upload a CSV file of the donors or prospective donors' contact information that you want the AI assistant to contact. So a couple different ways you can use it there.
Yeah, and I'll add, Amelia, if if I'm wrong, cut me off. But we're we'll also continue to see how we can create APIs that connect with a lot of the traditional advancement or development CRMs. And based on previous experiences, if you're talking Blackbot or others, I feel good that can be done. But we'll definitely work to figure that out.
Absolutely. Yep. And we have a couple others here. Does this work for regular non-COVID donor conversations? Absolutely. And I think Matt mentioned a couple of kind of non-COVID examples as he went through, but all of these types of conversations, while they're specifically crafted for you guys to show you guys today what they would look like for COVID responses, can be used in any context. And there'll be additional types of conversations and skills that can just reach out normally and say, okay, we have this group of donors who are coming up on the end of their membership cycle, donor cycle for annual donors. Let's just try to get them renewed. We're reaching out to potential major donors. So any kind of normal communication that you do with your donor base can also be done by an AI assistant.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, no, go for it.
Oh, I was just going to say that, I just wanted to echo what you said. This is a long-term solution. I mean, the great thing about the AI assistant is it can definitely help out right now with a lot of the COVID-related crisis that you are experiencing, I'm certain. But there's such long-term application just for ongoing fundraising events, major gifts, annual giving.
Yep, lots of those. Gordon also asked, can you share a cost structure to use Conversica's AI assistant? I would love to. This is part of the thing that's still in development. So we want to make sure that the meetings we set with you guys, we're going to have a really frank discussion to make sure that we're hitting a right price point that you guys can match. And we realize that Conversica has roots in more automotive and corporate realms. The price points are going to be very different in different verticals. And so to make sure that this fits for organizations in the fundraising space, we want to talk with you guys first before we set something in stone. And so that's a really big part of today is, one, we want to get feedback on potential use cases that are beyond the ones that we've thought of, because you guys are obviously the experts, but also just getting your feedback in a really open, honest conversation about that price point and that cost structure. So Gordon, we'd love to chat with you. If you have 30 minutes or so, we'd love to get some feedback from you beyond this. Those are some great questions. And Carrie as well.
And I am remiss if I don't include John. But John, any other thoughts or questions or things that you think we've left out today?
Yeah, just real quick. The whole idea of this, I think Matt and I started talking with Amelia and Conversica a while ago. It's not so much that don't think of it as technology, but just think of the next iteration of your donor-centric relationship. And so I think what's happening, and unfortunately COVID has sped this up, but what's happening is the expectation of donors. And so when we think about, Matt's heard me say this time and time again when we talk to folks about how many contacts does it take before somebody decides to make a gift? Well, about 23. And when you think about it now, how are those 23 contacts going to happen? Well, most likely, and a lot of it's going to happen through virtual AI, and these post-event, pre-event connections are going to be through a virtual event or something like that. So the next question is, how do you get donors to receive the information they want to make a compelling gift? And that's going to be really customized content, donor-specific communications, and that's where Conversica comes in. This tool, I think, really does give you, your organization the ability to customize and segment, to give people that interaction they want. So I would just remind everybody that this is really a very donor-centric tool. Its time has come. So that's the only thing I was going to add.
Great point. And I really think, this is not technology for technology's sake. It's not something so, complex and hard to implement. the AI system is very straightforward. It's all about, I think, getting you closer to that donor. And it's really about, we're so busy, and, especially frontline fundraisers and annual giving, and just all the things that we have to do. And we all have so many donors and stakeholders to connect with. And if we all could connect, if we can connect with them on a personal level and just understand either their connection to the organization or their desire to be more and more engaged. Let's not think about disqualification is just as important as, Gordon's question is, that if the AI assistant can disqualify folks, that's just as important. And, how can we get more meetings as major gift officers and frontline fundraisers? The AI assistant provides that persistence. It might take 5 or 6 contacts to get someone's attention in today's busy, wild world. And that's really hard to do as a person, I know from experience. But having an assistant like that can help you in that way is invaluable, because we all know meetings are so critical.
Yeah, Matt, I was just going to add, kind of get back to Gordon's question. The other part of this is so much of our work is subtlety, right? And, somebody hasn't responded in 3 emails, or they said they're going to do this. This, for the first time, gives you the ability to kind of carefully, subtly tell that, this person isn't as engaged, so let's pull back and put them on communications or some other facet. So it doesn't have to be this binary between we have no contact with them, or I'm going to make an ask for a gift, or I'm going to put them on annual giving appeal, something like that. I think that's where this is a real game changer. You start introducing a subtlety to these relationships that you don't have to personally manage. The AI does. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. And then just the sense of teeing up either a phone program if you're a higher ed institution and you're doing alumni calls, or you do have a phone program. The assistant can be a really powerful personal connection in supporting that program. And then we also talked about events, and what a great way to personally invite people one-on-one to an event. We are hopefully one day going to have these major events again, and then also the follow-up, because we know after you get done a giant event, we're too exhausted to really follow up on a one-on-one way, and the assistant can really provide that that one-on-one personalization for follow-up of events.
Awesome. Thank you both so much. It's really key to have your voices in here, because you have that both, personal experience with all of this, but also are in touch with these organizations all the time. So making sure we're really understanding where those pain points are, where it's been frustrating, especially in these last few months, and where the AI assistant can pop in and help support your human teams while they manage other things for the organization. I think with that, we don't have any new questions coming in. If you do have any other questions, please feel free to reach out, and I'll pop back to this slide with our contact information. Although you'll get that in the email follow-up as well. We'll send out a link of the recorded webinar with all of our contact information, so you can easily get in touch. I know Matt and John will be connecting with you guys soon, who are already in touch with them. So we'll try to set up some meetings and get some feedback from you guys, and send out that survey link to get a bit more feedback on those use cases. Hopefully everyone on this call and your families are staying safe and sane. Hope you get a chance to get outside for a quick walk or something after this. Thank you all so much for joining. Any last words, Matt and John?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you so much. And if you want to explore this further with just John or I, we're happy to hop on the phone and talk through just different scenarios and different ways that you can utilize the AI assistant. And again, we are there to help you if you want to move forward with implementation, and we will be at your side, as you're a pioneer in this. And again, thanks for joining us. Thanks for just listening and thinking about this as a solution for fundraising. And take care and have a good weekend. I know we're Thursday, but
close enough. Almost there.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. We'll